That's right, Val. In fact, it was 5 different law enforcement agencies that have been out here searching all day for, again, what they say are drugs and narcotics that Craven County Sheriff Hughes says were thrown from a speeding car that was driving across the Neuse River Bridge right here in New Bern. That's right. Carteret County Sheriff Asa Buck tells me this is not the first time they've dealt with Murphy, and while he says he can't get into his previous charges, he did say this latest was for outstanding warrants on weapons-related violations. We know right now that witnesses last spotted Vanderford somewhere near the Twin Span Bridge right here in New Bern, about 200 yards from where we're standing at the Outback Steakhouse here on Howell Road. In fact, this is where the Craven County Sheriff's Office has set up their command center. You can see right here behind me all of the patrol cars set up here ready to go as deputies have been actively searching. They were actively searching yesterday on the land. They have now moved that search onto the water as they're learning more information about where Vanderford could possibly be. In fact, joining me here this afternoon is Craven County Sheriff Chip Hughes to tell us more information. Sheriff, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, ma'am.
Many demonstrators have been handing each other food, water bottles, supporting each other, and preaching one message, and that is to remain peaceful. Many of the demonstrators that you see here right behind me tell me they want no more violence. They only want accountability from police. They want the release of that body camera footage, but they don't want it coming at the cost of more lives and more violence. We know that the 2 officers involved in that incident are now on paid administrative leave until this investigation is complete. Now, I have that video that was caught on a cell phone camera. I also obtained additional surveillance footage which shows more of what happened last night. I talked to an expert with Akamai Cybersecurity. He says this is a growing problem and adds if companies don't make serious changes, this won't be the last attack of this magnitude. In our investigation, we found that the increase in accidents at this intersection appeared to directly correlate to the new pavement put down in August of 2020 and to rainfall. Almost every time it rains, there appears to be another accident right here behind me. This survey will confirm the exact cause of those accidents and determine a solution, something local leaders have been waiting for. Yeah, take a look here behind me. You can see it is absolutely a celebration at the Beaufort Hotel here in Carteret County as the polls look like Congressman Greg Murphy will once again be reelected. The bacteria can infect people through open wounds that come into contact with bodies of water like the Neuse River here behind me. It can also infect people through ingesting shellfish that contain that bacteria. The most important thing out here, Brian, is that nobody was actually injured when those shots were fired, not just at a Greenville police detective, but also at a federal agent. But you can see here behind me, the scene is very much still active. The flood water came as high as 3 feet in certain areas of the campground. Take a look. You can still see the water level is high against the RVs behind me. According to these warrants in my hands, former Commissioner Peter Van Vliet was found in possession of at least 12 child pornography videos, some of those involving children as young as 2 to 5 years old. His punishment for this, probation. According to these case documents in my hand, Brian, it is male officials found over 500 ballots that were missed statewide between last night and this morning. The plaintiff in this case was his former administrative assistant. She claims that when she was hired in October of 2016, this department director sexually harassed her on multiple occasions. Republican Congressman Greg Murphy tells me he has no reaction until this election is, in his words, verified.
What did you take away from the president's speech today?
Well, the president's speech focused largely on his Supreme Court nominee, Amy Coney Barrett. President Trump told the crowd that if he is not reelected, his opponent's pick could have radical left philosophies. Well, take a look here behind me. It's a pretty slow scene here at the Carteret County School building. In fact, that's what poll workers here in Beaufort tell me it's been like all day, which is not necessarily surprising considering 60% over that actually of registered voters here in the county voted prior to Election Day. and this is just one of 26 total precincts. Now, for voters who are casting their ballots today, let me show you the process. As you can see here, hand sanitizer stations are throughout the entire room. There are also masks for any voter who forgets one, and every single voter gets their own pen to limit person-to-person contact. Now, once a voter gets a pen, they can head right back there to that station. Each voter is separated from the poll workers. Actually, pretty safe here on the roads. You can see there's not much snow sticking to the ground. But one thing that we do want to make you aware of is there are some problem areas around town, including one of the major problem areas we noticed was on the on and off ramps getting onto Highway 70, both east and westbound. The Coast Guard tells me that now one of their main concerns with the air temperature and the water temperature being as cold as it is the possibility or even the likelihood of hypothermia. Update on the suspect officials tell us they are searching for after last night's standoff in LaGrange that continued into this morning. Now, this story is not over yet. I'm continuing to follow up with residents and management to make sure those needs are continuing to be addressed.
In the meantime, what can residents do if they have more maintenance issues?
That's a great question. You know, Vice President Felino did give me a copy of the letter that she sent residents that includes the resident exchange line and the steps that management takes as well whenever they do address a maintenance issue. You can find that on our website. Crews are continuing to look into this problem, but local leaders fear there's no time to waste to find a solution. Anthony, it is mornings like this that remind me I am really not a Jersey girl anymore. I'm officially a Southerner because I walked out the door and I was freezing. So are we going to see those temperatures later on today too? Clearly on Wednesdays we wear pink, but what's our weather looking like?
I was telling you before the show, these are dangerous. They were buy 5, get 5. I did not get the full 5.
I thought I heard some rappers rustling over there.
It's Easter. We have to break out the candy.
Rachel and I have actually been getting in the Christmas spirit all morning here. But Rachel, it sounds like we may need to switch from let it snow to let it rain. Anthony, I am so thankful that I get to spend Thanksgiving morning with all of our viewers at home, but I feel like I may also have a reason to be thankful for this forecast.
Oh, yeah.
Shane, on a scale of 1 to an entire bottle, how much hairspray do I need heading out the door today? He says he does feel it needs to be an easier and faster process for the public to see body camera video in situations like this. Multiple other states, including Pennsylvania, Kansas, and Colorado and Georgia, have already implemented deadlines for law enforcement agencies to release body camera footage. And on April 5th of this year, lawmakers in our state introduced a bill in our General Assembly to make it easier to get police videos. Recently, a bill was filed in our General Assembly April 5th to make it easier for law enforcement agencies to release that body camera footage. I believe giving them about 48 hours to release it. In your opinion, should this bill pass?
Right now, there's no certainty that the public will ever get to see the video, and that does not serve us well, and so I do think that the law needs to be revisited. And I think what we need to do is move closer to allowing the public to have a date certain by when we all know we can see what happened. That transparency will give us much more comfort in knowing that our law enforcement is trying to help us.
You've released a statement regarding the incident over in Elizabeth City. There's been a lot of protests, and I understand from that statement that you are in favor of releasing that body camera footage.
We don't know what happened. There are all kinds of stories what happened. The advantage of body camera footage is it gives us an objective representation of what happened, and I think that we need to resolve people's doubts one way or the other.
Well, Stein tells me he has reached out to the district attorney, Henry Womble, in that area to ask him or offer his help if it's needed during this time as protests continue. We know that the 2 officers involved in that incident are now on paid administrative leave until this investigation is complete. Now, I have that video that was caught on a cell phone camera. I also obtained additional surveillance footage, which shows more of what happened last night.
Wow.
It's a video that left Barbara Sutton, president of the NAACP in Kinston, speechless.
I was home in class when I got the call, and I immediately jumped up and went down to the police department because it was so disturbing.
The video in question is this cell phone video given to News Channel 12 by the woman who recorded it. In it, you can see 2 Kinston police officers chasing down a man on Queen Street. In the video, the man falls to the ground. One of the officers then bends over him, appearing to punch him. multiple times. The other officer then kneels down beside the other, the two seemingly trying to restrain the man on the ground. I spoke to Kinston resident Cynthia Bruton on the phone today, who walked me through the moment she saw the video on Facebook Monday night and realized the man in it is her son.
I was very upset. I was very alarmed. I was very scared. And so we pretty much just wanted clarification as to what happened and how did it escalate to the point where was being beaten, according to the video.
I reached out to Kinston Police Chief Tim Dilday asking for that clarification, but Dilday declined an interview. According to the incident report, though, police received a call about a panic alarm at 111 Vernon Avenue. The caller claiming Mr. Bruton, the man in the video, threatened her. The report also says Bruton ran when confronted by police, then fell down and kicked one of the officers in the stomach. I walked around the area where this happened and asked store owners if their surveillance cameras possibly caught any of this, and one of them did. This is the video the store owner showed me. You can see Bruton running from officers. It appears this was just seconds before the cell phone video was taken. I spoke to Mayor Don Hardy, who tells me Bruton was resisting arrest, but also adds Bruton wasn't armed. As an outsider watching that video, it's hard to imagine any situation that could possibly warrant that type of response.
Absolutely.
As a journalist, I know that there are two sides to every story. Is there any evidence to suggest that excessive force was used?
So the determination whether, those closed fist strikes were appropriate or not is going to be in the investigation. This is why we're doing an investigation, to figure out, what exactly took place.
Mayor Hardy, City Manager Sears, and Chief Dilday have all been in contact with the NAACP and Bruton's family as the investigation continues. As for both Cynthia Bruton and Sutton, they have faith city leaders will give them the answers they demand.
We want everybody to be patient. As pertains to the investigation, there's a due process. We would like to remain calm, and we would like to have confidence and faith that our city manager, our chief of police, will do the right thing in this particular situation.
Now happening right now, city leaders are giving a news conference to discuss what action will be taken regarding this incident. We will take you live to this news conference right now. Here's what city leaders are saying. Take a listen. I sat down with an NCDOT traffic engineer here at the NCDOT office in Greenville. I addressed that dramatic uptick in accidents and asked what can possibly be done. Wheels on the ground, tow hitch ready to go. Mike Gray, the record manager at his family-owned company, Gray's Towing, gets ready to rescue yet another driver off the road.
Neighbor 911. Hi, calling because I saw a wreck on Glen Burnie, right over the Glen Burnie Road Bridge.
That accident was called in Thursday, February 18th, at the Glen Burnie exit on Highway 70 in New Bern.
But I don't know if an ambulance is needed or what, but I thought I'd call, and it looks pretty bad.
A call New Bern Police and the Havelock Towing Company have heard far too many times in the past several months, specifically in that area.
We have definitely seen an increase in the last 6 months to a year. It's more than tripled the amount of cars either in the ditch or accidents in and around that area.
An increase Mike has never seen before. In your 15 years of working in the towing industry here specifically in Eastern North Carolina, have you ever seen this many accidents at one exit?
Not in one specific area, no. Definitely a safety hazard.
According to NCDOT data, there were 6 crashes at the Glen Burnie exit, heading both east and westbound from September of 2018 to March of 2019. In comparison, there were 36 crashes at that same exit from August of 2020 to February of 2021, a 500% increase, or 6 times the amount of previous crashes.
There's multiple contributing factors, I'm sure, but there is definitely something off in that area.
I sat down with NCDOT traffic engineer Steve Hamilton to address the uptick in crashes.
Oh, the sheer number of them, yeah, it's unusual that you have that kind of spike in crashes, but we haven't looked at any of the details on the specific crashes to see what was going on or why.
I, however, did. After pouring through NCDOT records, I found out of the 6 accidents in the 2018 to 2019 period, a third
were rain-related, half caused by animals, the rest attributed to drinking and driving. In the 20 to 21 period, in 78% of the 36 crashes, rain played a contributing factor.
And 27 of the crashes were ran off the roadway left to center, so it could have been hydroplaning.
But here's the catch. According to data from the National Weather Service, the average rainfall per month in New Bern was only half an inch more in the last 6 months in comparison to the previous time frame, posing the question, is rain exclusively to blame?
I'm not going to point any fingers, but it is coincidental that it maybe started in or around the time they did the paving.
In August of 2020, the same time the uptick in accidents began, NCDOT repaved that exact area of Highway 70 where drivers keep running off the road. An issue I addressed with NCDOT engineer Hamilton.
According to the National Weather Service and their data, the rainfall totals and even the days that it rained weren't very significantly different.
The amount of rainfall is important, but it's also how many days or the intensity of the rainfall. You know, it might, if it's lightly drizzling on a new pavement, that's probably when it's the most susceptible to slippage.
What's concerning for me, I think, is why this specific area, because then looking at the data, at the Clarks Road exit, just west of the Glen Burnie exit, in that same 2020 to 2021 time frame, there were only 8 accidents. And then at the exit directly east, the Business 17 exit, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe seems to be a very busy intersection, there were still 13 less accidents in that 2020 to 2021 time frame than at the Glen Burnie exit. So why are we seeing 36, a 500% increase as well, at that particular exit?
Well, at this point, we really don't have an answer to that.
Hamilton even admitted the Business 17 exit sees more traffic, 40,000 cars a day versus 24,000 that travel the Glen Burnie exit. In theory, the number of accidents at the Glen Burnie exit should be far less, but that's not the case.
Seems to be a strange coincidence that the accident started, this uptick started in August of 2020, and that's of course when NCDOT had repaved that specific area.
Well, the new pavement is different than the old pavement. It's a different mix than what was down on the road originally. I mean, I think there's some statistics that show maybe the new mix, when it's first put down, is more susceptible to slippage. They have been reviewing these, and we'll look at this location more now that we're aware.
Mike hopes that's true, fearing the next call could be one his tow truck alone can't fix.
Maybe that's what it'll take, unfortunately, for something to be looked at is a death or a serious injury, or the right person getting in an accident. I don't know.
Now, I asked Hamilton what the next steps are now that they are aware of this issue. He said engineers will be looking at each crash report individually to determine an exact cause and see if anything can be done to curb those crashes. Reporting live in Greenville tonight, I'm Kate Hussey for News Channel 12. I sat down with Attorney General Josh Stein almost a year to the day after I spoke with him around when the system was first implemented. He tells me sexual assault kits, some of which sat on the shelves for years, are now being tested by the thousands. One of those kits seeing action, a horrific rape out of Fayetteville. It's cast a shadow over detectives for decades.
September of 1992. I was actually in college when that case broke, but I remember hearing about it.
It's one of the most brutal cases Fayetteville police have ever seen. And for Lieutenant Michael Petty, it's a case that still torments him.
This case, it impacted so many people.
An unsuspecting woman suddenly attacked, struck in the back of the head while working her night job in a cemetery. Waking up in the trunk of an unknown car, unable to make out anything but 3 looming silhouettes.
They drug her from the vehicle, took her into the wooded area, tied her up, and brutally raped and beat her to the point that she was near death. She basically stated that she felt like they were trying to kill her, and she played dead, and they left her there.
Miraculously, she survived, but never forgot the message they left for those who found her car.
They spray painted on the hood of the vehicle the Three Horsemen. So this case, since 1992, that's what we've called it. It's the Three Horsemen case.
But with limited DNA testing capabilities and critical evidence destroyed, those clues meant nothing. The case sitting on the shelves of the Fayetteville Police Department for years, leaving a victim without closure and 3 violent criminals on the streets.
In this case, it sort of haunted me since I've gotten here.
A tale of injustice Attorney General Josh Stein says he found startlingly common in law enforcement agencies across North Carolina.
When I came into office, we did a count and came to the distressing realization there were 15,000 untested sexual assault kits.
In October of 2018, Stein implementing a sexual assault kit tracking system, allowing victims to track their sexual assault kits the same way we track a pizza.
I think last time I talked to you in 2019, the state had processed over, I believe, 2,400.
Yes.
Where are we now 2 years later?
In terms of testing these kits, we've made a lot of progress. More than 8,000 kits are ready for testing. They've either been tested or they've been approved and sent to the lab.
8,000 kits tested means more than half of the 15,160 kits previously sitting idle are bringing their brave owners one step closer to justice.
Is this proof the system is working?
It is working. We are solving old cases. In Durham, they have had 11 different arrests that applied to 15 different old sexual assaults, and that's happening across North Carolina.
One of those cases, the almost 3-decade-old case in Fayetteville, a call the lieutenant wasn't expecting to get.
And the first thing I hear Courtney say is, "Can I tell him?" And she said, "We got a hit." And I think I dropped a couple explicatives.
One of 3 horsemen a DNA match, and now in custody, giving the lieutenant hope the other 2 horsemen are not far behind.
Are you still looking for the other 2?
Absolutely. We're not done. We're not done. This is just one piece of that puzzle.
Both Stein and Lieutenant Petty say while we've made a lot of progress testing these sexual assault kits, we still have a long way to go. Stein says the problem now is that we have such a huge influx of kits being tested that private crime labs are becoming overwhelmed, which slows down that testing. The solution, he says, will require funding from lawmakers, to which Stein is hopeful our state legislators will find a way to secure. While I did find bugs in what appears to be mold, heat that doesn't work. That's from at least 3 residents' homes. At least 4 others tell me a very similar story, claiming their issues had been ignored.
Walking inside William Midget's home, it was clear he wasn't the only one home.
I have moisture, I have roaches. You see it? You can take a shot in this drawer.
He wasn't kidding.
Look.
What's that black? Is that mold?
That's roach poop.
That's roach poop?
And that's not the worst of it. The 66-year-old was using his stove as a heater.
I had to boil water to stay warm.
On top of that, he showed me what appears to be mold on the ceiling.
I can't breathe at night. I cough. I breathe like I'm a 500-pound man. We need help.
Just across the street, resident Andrea Marion shared a similar story, showing me pillows and clothing covered in, again, what looks like mold.
There's a lot. And this is just from being on my bed. Everybody wants to go to sleep without having breathing problems.
The mother of 2 says she contacted management.
Multiple times. I've called over and over and over.
Have they done anything, said anything?
No!
I called the vice president of Preservation Management. That's the private company that owns this affordable housing complex.
I found multiple units with bugs, mold, heat that doesn't work, doors that don't lock. Are you aware of any of these issues?
First of all, we've had coronavirus protocol in place since March, which only allowed the maintenance guys to do emergencies only.
I believe that many of these situations, mold, bugs, heat that doesn't work, those constitute as emergencies.
We did have 3 heat calls. We needed blower motors, which had been ordered. There are delays, which is also something we've been dealing with across the country.
She says her company offered to book hotel rooms for impacted residents while they were waiting for the part to arrive.
As for the mold, she says this is the first time she's hearing of the issue.
I went through our work order reports to see if I could find anybody that had any reported mold, and I don't have any that's been reported.
Foligno then sent me this letter, which she says she sent to residents back in June, informing them of the maintenance challenges related to the coronavirus. The letter includes a resident exchange line, which residents can use to contact higher management if their emergency needs weren't being addressed locally.
Also in the letter said, I want to make sure that you know you have a voice.
I checked in with resident Andrea.
I don't recall receiving that letter back in June.
You haven't gotten this letter?
No.
William says he did get the letter.
Can you tell me, do you know if you had reached out to the resident exchange line?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
But says still his problems weren't fixed. Foligno says she believes the problem is if residents didn't contact the right phone lines listed on that letter, complaints possibly slipped through the cracks. To correct the problem, Foligno issued a new letter and made sure complaints at Craven Terrace were addressed, which I double-checked with William.
The people came out and repaired what was wrong. They put a new pump in, new thermostat.
What about the mold? Was that taken care of?
Some of that, they got to come back and finish that, but they did start on it.
Really? How quickly after I spoke with you?
About the next day or a day later.
Neighbor Andrea was also paid a visit.
They did come over and I showed them what I had showed you, the mold in the bedroom.
And is encouraged to see the first steps towards action.
I'm hoping maybe they will start doing something.
Now, Val, this story is not over yet. I'm continuing to follow up with residents and management to make sure those needs are continuing to be addressed.
In the meantime, what can residents do if they have more maintenance issues?
That's a great question. You know, Vice President Foligno did give me a copy of the letter that she sent residents that includes the resident exchange line and the steps that management takes as well. Whenever they do address a maintenance issue, you can find that on our website.